Accountability is God's job, but it's not solely God's job. No, it's our job too. We will be the plan. We are never going to give up. When the truth is known to the entire world, we are going to have extreme accountability. Good evening and welcome to the Stu Peters Show. So we have given a lot of attention on this program to the inspiring story of Scott Schara. You've maybe seen him on our show before. He's the dad on a crusade for justice after fake doctors murdered his 19-year-old special needs daughter, Grace, with a lethal cocktail of drugs after placing her on a do not resuscitate order. Scott was forcibly removed from the hospital by armed guards. His wife had to watch her daughter die via FaceTime on an iPad because they literally would not allow her into the hospital. As Scott has explained on this program before, his daughter was murdered for being disabled and for being unvaccinated. The hospital has desperately tried to dismiss his case, but so far they've failed. Instead, Scott's lawsuit has gone further and further, and last week, Scott and his legal team won their most important legal victory yet. They survived their final motion to dismiss. So this case is now headed to a full civil jury trial, which has the potential to completely remake legal precedents for malpractice. If Scott is able to prevail, it will become far, far easier to win justice for all of the people hurt and killed by malicious and tyrannical and pro-death doctors over the last 3 years. This isn't just about justice for Grace Schara. This is about justice for everyone. Karen Kingston is closely following this case, and she joins us now. Karen, long time no see. Thank you so much for coming back. We broke this story a long time ago here on the program. I mean, Scott is just an amazing fighter. So many dads would just lay down and fetal position themselves, probably off themselves. I mean, this guy is really out here fighting on the front lines.
Yeah, he is. And he had a major victory on Monday, October 30th. People don't understand how groundbreaking this is. Judge McInnes, who is a judge in Wisconsin, basically dismissed all of the defendants. So Ascension Healthcare, which is a $30 billion juggernaut, St. Elizabeth's Hospital and their staff, including Dr. Shokar and Dr. Miranda, if I'm saying that last name correctly, basically dismissed all of their claims for a motion to dismiss. So they are moving forward, and this is what's so critical, with a lawsuit for wrongful death, for lack of informed consent, for negligence, and for battery, and then declaratory judgment. And what makes this case so different than any other medical malpractice case in history is that the battery is not covered under medical malpractice laws or insurance because they never gave Grace or her parents any consent, informed or otherwise. And so what the doctors were saying is like, well, lack of informed consent is covered under Wisconsin 655. So, you have to put a cap on how much you can sue us for, and it's going to be covered by malpractice. And what Scott Schara's attorneys argued was, no, intent matters. You can't go into a hospital and have physicians not tell you how they're going to treat you, simply not tell you that they're going to inject you with a trifecta cocktail of lethal drugs. Grace was literally injected with what they call end-of-life drugs, straight out of the legal briefing, which I recommend every personal injury attorney around America download and read this briefing and memorize it. But it says right here, the allegations of the amended complaint supported punitive damage regarding plaintiff's battery claim after an unauthorized do not resuscitate was placed on record and her power of attorney, meaning Grace's, was removed from the premises. That was her father, removed by an armed guard. Grace was injected with morphine, Ativan, and Precedex. These are end-of-life drugs without her or her power of attorney's knowledge or consent. These actions killed her. As alleged, this conduct is willful, wanton, and reckless. So they have nowhere to hide. And if there are attorneys, again, take a look at the legal briefing. I know you guys have links to it. It's linked in my Substack. This is what a great attorney does in court in regards to arguing for his client, the plaintiff, the victim, Grace Schara. Defendants, so he's saying the doctors at St. Elizabeth's Medical Hospital and the nurses want this court to rule that a patient with Down syndrome can be intentionally restrained, intentionally deprived of advocacy, intentionally administered deadly sedatives. They knew they were going to cause death, all without consent and these actions are simply medical negligence, submitting battery under Chapter 655, which is assuming this is malpractice and there was no intention, in such a way would make a hospital walled gardens where any intentional misconduct would be treated as simple negligence. Indeed, defendant Murata, who's the doctor, envisions a world where there is no common law claim for the failure of healthcare providers to obtain consent that falls out of malpractice. In this world, an unethical and financially motivated physician may administer deadly drugs without consent for malign purposes, including making room for new patients or adhering to diagnostic related codes for financial benefits. The physician's liability would be limited to malpractice, and even the liability would be subject to insurance coverage. And the judge said, no. If you intend to murder someone so that you want to free up a hospital bed, or there's a diagnostic related code, such as putting them on a ventilator, you're going to get an extra bonus, and that's why you're doing it. You cannot hide behind any laws that protect you as a doctor. A license to practice medicine is not a license to kill. Not only does this shatter the malpractice laws, Scott Schara was able to shatter the willful misconduct alleged liability under the PrEP and POPRA Act under an EUA law. So it is just tremendous what he has done. So when Grace was administered, they first put her on Precedex, which was used to typically intubate someone, put them on a ventilator. They said, no, don't do that. Then after he was removed on October 13th, her sister was there, Jessica, and the Dr. Shokar called the parents and said, oh, well, we want to put her on a feeding tube. They said, don't do that. And they refused to have her be put on a ventilator. While he was on the phone with her, he had a nurse double her dose of Precedex, causing her heart to slow down, causing her oxygen levels to go down. He then ordered her to be put on morphine and Ativan. Her sister at 7:20 p.m. on October 13th, that same day, noticed she became cold and chilly. She told the nurse. The nurse said, oh, that's normal. Then her sister called her parents on FaceTime, and they literally said, we did not order a DNR. Save our daughter, Grace. They could have given her a drug to reduce the morphine. And 8 minutes later, she died. And they had a guard standing outside of her room while that happened. This was murder. And the judge says intent matters.
This is first of all, I have such a hard time when Scott's on this program. I mean, and you just kind of like revisualizing, re-explaining what happened. I mean, think about this. Your daughter is literally locked in a room under armed guard while she's killed.
Yeah.
And you're begging for the doctor to save her. And they're just actively, no, we are murdering your daughter and you're going to watch this on a freaking iPad. So $1 billion lawsuit is great. And I hope that they get every single last penny of that. When are these doctors going to be held to extreme accountability? And think about how many millions and millions of times this story was repeated over again, whether it was somebody's aunt or their mother or their daughter or their sister, their neighbor, their loved ones. I'm just so ready for people to start having this conversation about holding these people to extreme account.